So, Hotel Transylvania, a film starring the legend Adam Sandler, is a very conflicting film in my mind. I'd say 80% of it is pure gold. It has great messaging, lots of substance, phenomenal environments and animation, slow pace with a lot of fun characters. But the other 20% can exclusively be described as cringe.
Let me wipe all your poop away.
But to start positive for a change, the slow pace of the film really works to its advantage, mostly focusing on the world building, the bonding between the characters, Johnny's relationship with Dracula and Mavis, and that's all very well done. Dracula is a very interesting sort of anti-hero protagonist. There's a lot of good gags, especially visually about how every monster is like used for tons of silly antics. It's very funny for most of it, but like 1/8 of the jokes in the movies are like genuinely almost kind of hard to watch. Made me feel a bit embarrassed, watching this in my fucking dorm. I didn't want anyone looking over my shoulder seeing this.
So listen, all you singers from here to Beijing, you better crack the box string, get ready to clean.
The movie has a lot of pissing and shitting and farting. And, as a fan of pissing, shitting, and farting myself, it's not ever used cleverly. It's mostly just blunt gross out. And it's just like a smidge too prevalent. Like, I feel like there's so many scenes that are supposed to be a little more serious or setting up for a different kind of joke. And they just got to shove like a butt cheeks or like some poop in there. If I write that. Also, like, this is way worse in the sequels, but there's just a smidge too many pop culture references in the film for my liking. That's actually bizarre. I wonder, I assume they got Disney's permission, but that one in particular is really weird. But juvenile humor and fun characters aside, I really want to see, what this movie means, really dig into the meat of it. Adolf Hitler did not like the Jews. You probably know this. He dehumanized and outgrouped them, sent them to camps, had them killed en masse, etc. I feel like someone as radical as Adolf Hitler had his beliefs set in stone. That these enormous feelings of intense hatred and racism were ingrained in a deep, fundamental part of his mind. But Adolf Hitler had Jewish friends. Dr. Edward Bloch, Hitler's childhood family physician, was put under protective care by the Gestapo, and Hitler helped him immigrate to the US in 1940. But today, we will be talking about the original Hotel Transylvania, a movie starring Adam Sandler, his SNL friends, and one-hit wonder CeeLo Green.
And although there's pain in my chest, I still wish you the best.
A movie filled with poop and pee.
Oh, I'm sorry,
and
I'm a
sex.
little lost. Yes, I know it's your honeymoon. I apologize. Go back to doing what you were doing.
And rapping Adam Sandler. So, what really is there to parse in this film? Well, I think Dracula's motivations are really dense and intricate, and I want to look into them today. Part 1. Propaganda. So Drac does not like humans, because approximately 118 years ago, Dracula's wife was murdered in front of him and his newborn, Mavis. Drac here has been outgrouped with dire consequences, and thus starts his burning resentment against the human race. Drac creates a safe space for all monsters, a hideaway that seemingly houses most of them. Drac, in the role of hotel manager, seems to have a sense of power and entitlement over the other monsters. He does not seem to overstep his power, aside from putting a paramount focus on the narrative that all humans are evil. Drac in this clip specifically demonizes the child, when Drac no doubt knows that human children fear and ostensibly pose no threat to him or any other monster. In fact, as seen in his interactions with Johnny, he seems to be one of the only monsters at all, other than the naive and defiant Mavis, who does not seem to fear humans in the slightest. Now, Dracula isn't putting up a complete frontier, especially in the beginning. In the introduction of Johnny, the scene in the closet, Dracula seems to find excuses to find Johnny as a threat, seems to reactionally demonize him.
Evil villain, you will never win!
But even after he learns Johnny is the opposite of a threat, Drac continues to remove him simply out of the fear that his exaggerations and lies are exposed, specifically to his daughter, rather than a fear of Johnny causing harm. This is seen as a desperate bid for power on Drac's part. However, he mostly does this to conceal the fact that he lied to his daughter and manipulated her into not leaving. The other monsters are initially angry and horrified at Johnny's reveal as a human, but Dracula is more so disappointed in the fact that his lie is revealed. He does not seem to care at that point in the film. Drac, the one with the connection, the vendetta, the knowledge, the power, instills fear onto the ignorant masses, yet he himself does not seem to fear the other that he has created. But what about the other monsters? How do they come around? And how does Drac finally learn, too, the error in his ways? After all, it's easy to come around to one nice human, but how do the walls truly come down? How do you learn to accept the end? Part 2. Appropriation. Teased at the beginning, Johnny seems enamored by the monsters around him, seemingly think it's a sort of Halloween party.
What weapons are you keeping in this container? Your pitchforks? Oh! I can't breathe! It's killing me!
Yeah, definitely due for a fluff and fold.
What is this?
Then, at the end, this is culminated with Drac and its SNL friends going to a human town to find the airport and retrieve Johnny. This is only accomplished because the humans are ecstatic to help Dracula, and then do so. Why do the humans come around to help them? Because after the initial monster outgrooming, the humans would become obsessed with the monster culture and simulacra. Such occurrences happen all the time throughout history. The outgrew culture being celebrated by the Enforcer's descendants. Just look at how many white Americans like Final Fantasy and Taco Bell, or how many losers watch anime now. I mean, like 30 years ago, we fucking
check
nuked those
that
guys. We nuked their
costume
goofy eyes.
Wow, seriously, I just have to ask you, how are you pulling this off? I mean, it looks so real, like I could just put my hand right through.
What do you think you're doing?
She's real. You're real.
Yeah, and I'll give you a real beat. Keep your hands
In all
out of my
serious,
way.
a good example, specifically in America, is the mid-20th century obsession with tiki culture. A fabricated straw man of, it's like a slurry of, Polynesian, Hawaiian, Samoan, Maori, and other Pacific cultures and traditions, sanitized and kind of processed into this, like, escapist fantasy for mainland Americans. Many times imperialists become obsessed with the strawmans of the cultures they've subjugated, and in this realization, Drac comes around and accepts the humans as a class and retrieves Johnny. Part 4, Hypocrisy. Of course, the interesting twist in that perspective of the film is that Drac is the previously oppressed, is in the position of undisputed power, both physically and, in terms of, like, the state, as in he owns the hotel. And I want to focus on the former point for now. So one of the origins of zombies, zombies, as, the overused concept in the West that it's become, was introduced by the book Magic Island by William Seabrook. Zombies, reanimated corpses, forced to work the fields, a class of man only used for their body. Zombies have had ties to slavery since the antiquity of the concept. This reflects quite cleanly onto the monsters of the film. The humans of the film rejected the monsters, but they have love of the concept of their appearance, unique traits, and habits. Even in the Civil Rights Revolution of America, Black Americans were often only praised and revered for their proficiency in sports. And look at, Jackie Robinson's or Jesse Owens. This is the same for Hotel Transylvania. They love Dracula's fit, his speed, Frankenstein's size, the concept of the Invisible Man, and that bridges the gap and leads to the acceptance. However, even though humans are presented to misrepresent monster culture even as they admire it, their hearts are in the right place, yet they are ignorant of the true culture, which is also quite common in real life. Part 5, Epilogue. So, I don't really got much more to say in this video. It's a different video today, more so interpretive, just spitting out some thoughts I had while watching the movie, because I think the movie itself isn't too deep to talk about. Let me know if you like it or like it compared to my other videos, How about you go watch another one of my videos? How about you do that? Like it, subscribe. See you later, buddy.